Tony, I think the COVID 2020 football season revealed a lot about these conferences and these particular schools, but mostly the conferences and how they are led. And I won't go through my cheap analysis on each one, except for the Big Ten. The Big Ten seemed the most conflicted and the most, not just conflicted, but there to be the largest gap and conflict between academia, administrators, and the fan base, the coaches, the players. And then we saw it play out. And we saw that eventually there was the fight, and we played football in the Big Ten, and the Pac-12 followed along. So in this scenario with the realignment and the expansion, do you see some of these universities / football and athletic programs where you can tell where there's more synergy and more togetherness in regards to everything being on the same page academically, culturally, athletically, and then some more conflicted universities where there might be a push within the university to jump to, let's say, a Pac-12 to a Big 12 to save the football and to remain relevant versus administrators and board of regents seeing it completely different and there being some internal conflict?
So I think that, so first of all, this is an index I did. I call it the SEC Do You Care As Much As We Do index. So those of you guys at Ohio State will understand that when you see those like ESPN drivel commercials about like SEC, it means more, like, they make you want to vomit. So I did a calculation of how much football profits matter to the overall university budget. And I thought it was very interesting. So the index is that average SEC equals, sorry guys, there's landscapers outside. They're being really annoying. The average SEC school is 100% on this. So where are the Big Ten schools? Well, look at Ohio State's 58%, Michigan's 41%, UCLA is 15%. If we go to the Pac-12. So, I mean, these are giant enterprises, and the COVID dynamic really sort of shows that. But the Big Ten and the Pac-12 are very, very similar. I actually had done some calculations a couple of years ago recommending that, assuming they could divide out the revenue correctly, that the Pac-12 and Big Ten should really just have merged together somehow a long time ago, because they very much are aligned institutions. There is a very big perception, and Mark is sort of caught in you guys probably too, Steve, in this sort of Twitterverse of football fans. And there's a lot of just absolute nonsense in that from people who only think about football. And as far as institutions go, Arizona and Arizona State and Colorado are very much aligned with the Pac-12 as far as culture, as far as academics, as far as institutions, strategy, goals, all that. Their alumni are in Southern California. Their alumni are not in Waco. They're not in Kansas. They are not in God knows Iowa State. So when people keep talking about this, and you get these idiots on Twitter, they're like, "Oh, I know they're all about to come to the Big 12 tomorrow. Tomorrow it's going to be announced." Okay, it's tomorrow. Don't see anything. I mean, things can happen, but I do not. Unless the Pac-12 splinters to the point where it's really going to fall apart. None of those schools were falling out of line. None of those schools were acting like the SEC, where they were like, your grandpa's worried about COVID, we'll shoot him in the head tomorrow if that's what it takes to play football. I mean, that was the attitude in the SEC. And the Big Ten very much conflicted because there are big dollars involved in Big Ten football that matter to the schools. Again, 3 times as much as it matters to UCLA, but only 40% as much as it matters to the SEC. So it really comes down to follow the money. And, you guys at Ohio State, you're making a ton of money off football, but you're also a world-class academic school. You have world-class medical stuff. I mean, my friend who's the vet to the, Kentucky Derby winning horses is an Ohio State veterinarian doctor, does doctorate from there. You guys are a serious academic place with serious medical people and serious academic people who aren't going to do something stupid and dangerous. And so that's why they had caution until they knew they could manage it. And, and I think that that's very commendable and it's respectable. And they said, okay, we'll play without fans. We'll do what we have to do it safely. And if we only play 6 games, we only play 6 games. And we'll figure it out. If we have a big loss, we'll figure it out. We'll eat the loss. Yeah, you saw the same thing with the Pac-12. They're a little less reliant, I think, than the Big Ten because they don't make quite as much money, but they're also very, very similar institutions and they're aligned. And one of the things that I really sort of worry about this expansion is that, I mean, it has clearly damaged the relationship. I hope that relationship can be patched up. I actually think that it can be over time. But I think that it's important that these schools that really consider themselves institutions place that above just the idea of being a football brand. And I mean, you look at how Dr. Johnson runs the school. I mean, it's hard to get a smarter individual who understands the importance of academics more than she does.
Tony, when you comment on the relationship between the Big Ten and the Pac-12, are you talking about holistically, or are you talking about just athletically or in football?
Both. Holistic. I meant holistically. I mean, these are institutions where and I don't have the chart here. I have a great chart that like shows all the Big Ten and Pac-12 like executives and like the different schools they're from, like where they came from, where they went. Like they are very much intertwined. And they are not that intertwined into the SEC or the Big 12, quite honestly. The SEC and the Big 12 are more intertwined within themselves. And the Pac-12, Big 10, ACC are more intertwined amongst themselves. Like, for example, USC president was the Carolina chancellor. The UC system president was the Ohio State president. Your president has 3 degrees from Stanford and did all of her like great, amazing research while at Colorado. So you very much have a lot of intertwining among those institutions that they understand each other. They think alike. They hire from each other. I mean, that's the thing about the Big Ten with the Big Ten Academic Alliance. Your professors are being nurtured and intertwined at a Big Ten wide level. And, for that to add in USC and UCLA, who are, situated academically right between Stanford and Michigan, between Northwestern and Michigan, like that's a great add for the conference. And also I think they're going to fit in well with the conference.
I just have to think in regards to a football sense and athletically, but more so in football, that the Pac-12 to forgive the Big Ten for taking its largest television market and the second market in the country, arguably the two most prestigious schools in football, certainly the most prestigious school, and then UCLA could be 2, 3, or 4 historically, maybe not right this second. And then the Rose Bowl, maybe it has to be dead when it comes to a Big Ten Pac-12 matchup circa 2024 and beyond. I don't know how it exists past that with the Pac-12 standing as a football power or lack thereof starting in 2024.
No, I think you're right. I mean, one reminder, though, they've done this before. So we did this exact same thing where we got mad, where USC and UCLA got mad at the smaller schools and ditched out in the conference. So just for you guys at Ohio State who don't know, anybody who's telling you that the Pac-12 has been together since 1915 is actually factually wrong. They literally do not know anything about history. There was a break in 1957 where the Pacific Coast Conference was demolished and burned down in an inferno, and the Pac-12 came out of it. It's very much like if you think about like the Russian Revolution versus the Soviet Union. Not a lot of interaction between like Lenin and the Romanovs. Like that's sort of the history of the Pac-12. So, you guys are new, like when the former republics broke off and joined NATO. NATO could be the Big Ten in that analogy. It is a different conference. And so this is not the first time this has happened. And it's not the first time those other schools were left behind and then kind of got added in back later. One of the things that I think is actually kind of funny in that you guys probably aren't aware of, going back to that Rose Bowl page real quick. But Stanford, this is why I keep saying, don't count out Stanford. Stanford didn't join the Pac-12 until 9 days before opening day in 1959. So it would not surprise me if Stanford somehow back channel finds a way in. Yeah, Mark, I think the problem with the Rose Bowl is the Rose Bowl has had a lot of challenges as is. And I think they could maybe, as whatever the new contract's going to be, maybe there's a way that the Rose Bowl changes and actually becomes stronger as a result. I mean, in a world where hypothetically, think about if this would be amazing if you had Washington and you know, maybe Stanford and some of those other folks that were part of the gang with, you know, in the next 4 years or something. You could see a world where what I would love nothing more than is maybe the Big Ten championship isn't on December 15th or whatever in Indianapolis. Maybe there's Big Ten semifinals in Indianapolis and San Francisco, and the Big Ten championship is January 1st at 5 p.m. Eastern in Pasadena, and then they go and play the SEC champion or something like that. I'm already sort of seeing rumors of stuff like that people are thinking of, and that might be a way that the Rose Bowl gets back to what it used to be.